Never in a million years would I have thought that I would end up here in Bogota, Colombia. I'm about 2,900 meters above sea level, and even breathing is a little bit difficult at this high altitude. I'm still adjusting to the altitude and some of the altitude sickness, but today I just really wanted to share my story, which is I basically quit my high-paying tech salary job as a software engineer, and now I find myself unemployed. And I'm just really trying to figure this thing out, which is called life. And honestly, it's kind of a joke, but I'm here trying to figure that thing out. But maybe I'm doing this wrong, maybe I'm doing it right, but hopefully my personal story is going to resonate with some of you guys and give you some inspiration.
So everything started back in 2020 during the start of the pandemic that changed the world. I had just gotten out of the US Marine Corps, where I had served for 4 years, and now I found myself in Southern California trying to make my way back all the way to New York City, which I'm from. And so I have all my stuff in my Honda Civic, and I'm driving about over 3,000 miles across country in the US from California all the way to New York. And they're going through this drive. Obviously, I saw a lot of things, and I had a lot of time to think. But at that time, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't know what I was gonna transition to, what kind of job I was gonna do, since what I did in the Marine Corps was very different from what I'm gonna be doing in civilian life. So going through that process, thinking, not sure what I was gonna do. I got back to New York City safe and sound, even though I had a broken window, which is a wholly different story. But I got back to New York City, and I started talking to some of my friends, and I finally decided that I was gonna start doing some online coding projects, and decided that I like the puzzles, I like the problem solving, and that was sort of my foray into software and development. And basically I decided to join a coding bootcamp at the time, and I was able to actually go through coding bootcamp. And funny enough, I actually failed the coding bootcamp, and I thought this wasn't for me, because obviously I'm surrounded by so many smart people, intelligent people, that I couldn't even pass a coding boot camp. And mind you, I was doing this coding boot camp, and it was about 10-12 hours every day of coding, going through the practicing coding problems and building applications. And it was a lot of work. It was Monday through Saturday, and Sundays was for rest day, but I decided that I needed to study extra because I felt like I wasn't measuring up. So finding out that I failed the coding bootcamp was devastating, but I was lucky enough to be given a second chance and to re-enter the program from the start. And the coding bootcamp is about 3 months long, so starting from the start wasn't too bad, but it was a grind. It was a huge grind, and mind you, I was already doing probably already 10 hours of self-studying for about 6 months before I did the coding bootcamp, so to give myself a little bit of an edge. But I still found myself very, well, I was struggling basically. But luckily enough, I was able to pass the second time around and actually graduate the coding bootcamp and sort of go into that career transition phase where we're supposed to find a job. So mind you, I did not have a background in computer science. I had a accounting degree back in university, and what I did in the Marine Corps was 180 degree different from software. So mind you, I had zero background in software and computer science, and I sort of jumped into this a lot like a lot of my cohort mates. And I went through the process, and I felt somewhat confident, but a total imposter trying to get a job in the corporate world, trying to sell myself as a software engineer, as most of my classmates felt the same. But somehow, somewhere, just going through hundreds of interviews and putting in thousands of applications. I literally put in thousands of applications. I'm spending hours and hours studying leak code and putting in all these applications through these horrible human software resource sites where you're filling in all your information, your addresses, and your past employment over hundreds and hundreds of times. I also remember I was doing like 20, 30, 40 applications in a 2-hour sitting, just mind dead. But somehow, somewhere, I got a couple of chances to interview, and finally I decided on one company that actually took an interest in me and gave me that first job. So I got my first job, and sort of the rest was history. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video and you're getting some value out of it, please, if you can just click the like button and actually subscribe, that would be really helpful, because it helps the YouTube algorithm actually show my content to more people. As always, thank you for watching. So all seemed well. I got myself into corporate, a Fortune 500 company, and I was working with people that were very interesting, very smart, and the problems were challenging on a massive scale, right? We were building applications that affected millions of people. And I still felt like an imposter. I didn't know a lot of things, and I felt like I was just new, and I didn't even have a computer science background. I didn't have all the credentials that most of my coworkers had, and somehow I was being paid really well, and it felt really weird because I was making well over 6 figures, and I was building these applications and working on things. And mind you, everyone said I was doing well. Like, they enjoyed my company, they enjoyed pair programming with me, and they said that I had good ideas. And so that kind of helped, and I was enjoying the problems, and it was still a grind. I was waking up early, rolling out of bed, trying to code, because I was like, I need to tackle these big, hard problems first thing in the morning, because that's when my mind is most clear. And so I was doing that for probably at least 6-7 months. And mind you, this was still during the pandemic. And I started asking for a little bit more leeway, because it was now more of a hybrid role and fully remote role, depending on how severe COVID was. And so I found myself going into the office on occasions, but for the most part, I was still at home. As the pandemic was rolling to an end, I was able to actually ask for to be fully remote on some occasions. So I would talk to my manager and I would ask them, like, hey, can I actually work remotely for 3 weeks in a different country? And so that was sort of like my first foray into international traveling and working at the same time, sort of my first stint as a digital nomad. And I still remember the first time I went somewhere was actually to Aruba. And going to Aruba was very interesting, because it was a place where it was for like older couples, it was for like honeymooners and stuff like that. And I found myself sitting in my hotel trying to actually do some work, and then going out to explore in the afternoons. And it also took some transition, and I would say, like, working and traveling is not easy. Everyone thinks it's the best thing in the world, but it is not easy. It requires some discipline, it requires some commitment, and it requires focus, right? Because there's so many things to do around you, and you want to explore, you want to do all this, you're going to meet new friends, you might want to go out and meet people and stuff like that. But yeah, it's different than what you would expect if you've never done it before. And so I did that, and slowly I started asking my boss for longer stints to different places. I started traveling around Central America and also South America, and yeah, it was absolutely great. Like, I felt like I was actually doing what I was meant to do, in the sense, like, I was actually working, but I was having fun at the same time. There was this balance, but it was still a grind. I was working long hours, I was going hard, and as you're traveling, you have to figure out a lot of things, like flights, logistics, transportation, and different languages. You gotta go out and meet people, you gotta go to events, all on top of a 9-to-5 job, and having to figure this all out in a different language, perhaps, right? In an international setting. And so it is actually a lot to be a digital nomad, I would say, and the people who do it, like, kudos to them. We've been doing it for a while, and it takes a lot of experience, but yes, it is a grind. And so I'm going through this process, and a little bit more over another year, I actually find a job that is fully remote, and that fully remote job allowed me to travel anywhere in the world. And so I found myself as a true, pure digital nomad traveling the world, and I was like in Asia, I was in South America, Central America, in the States, and it was amazing. It was an amazing time, and honestly, I felt at a peak. And that's when things went to a different way. Well, how would I say this? It's as if something else clicked in the back of my brain, right? And it was more of a thought of, I want to do something different. I want to do something that was more in line with what I really wanted, and to help people in a more direct manner. And I didn't really know it at the time, and I already had I was already writing, I was already creating content, so to speak, on my blog, on my website. But I realized that, software is incredibly great. It is a opportunity to help and build things that can be scaled to millions and even billions of people, as you can see just by looking at your phone. And I realized that it wasn't really 100% for me. At the end of the day, that was it. And I remember talking to a friend and explaining him my situation and saying like, I have this fully remote job, I could travel the world, I have been traveling the world and doing all these great things. And he was like, you have the holy grail, man. Like, what are you doing? And you're thinking of quitting? And I was like, it kind of actually set me back a couple months, because I was like, maybe he's right. Like, this is just something that I'm feeling overwhelmed because of the job or something, that overwhelmed by all the traveling I'm doing. But then I talked to another friend, and we were both in Colombia, and we spent some time at a farm in Colombia in the countryside with all the animals, with the horses, with the ducks and the chickens, and and the goats, and just looking out there in the Colombian countryside and seeing life going by so slow, and living, just living off the land in a sense, right? Just being your own person and having the purpose of just being and living, experiencing things right in the here and now, right in front of you, not the past, not the future, but the here and now. And I told myself I needed to take the courage to actually take the jump from the cushy corporate job with the high salary and everything, the flexibility, and go figure things out, right? Go figure things out, go do what I set out to do in the world. And it wasn't as if I had a concrete plan. There was no really backup plan. I had a general idea, but I knew that I needed to take a sabbatical, a gap year, or whatever you call it, a little bit of time off to recenter myself and figure this out. And it was a very hard decision, because I knew that I was going to be giving up a very good job and very stable job, and having to explain to other people, having to explain why I quit. And I'll probably throw out this video of why I took the sabbatical and actually all the things going through my mind when I was thinking of doing it. But at the end of the day, I decided, I pulled the trigger. I said, screw it, I'm going to take the sabbatical, and I'm going to set out and do and experience the world truly for what it is. And I'm not gonna worry about the money and the stuff like that, right? And go after what I truly want in my life and follow my heart. And so I found myself without a job, unemployed, and with no backup site and plan. And that was a very difficult time for me. And now I'm unemployed. I guess I'm doing YouTube, I am writing, right? I'm also creating content, and I want to be completely transparent with you guys. And it is not easy, but it felt very fulfilling in the sense of I took the jump, even though I was very, very scared, and I still am scared in a sense. But I knew truly what my heart wanted, and it was earning and yearning for this freedom, right? This freedom to do and pursue what I truly wanted. And it goes against everything that my brain is telling me, what my parents are telling me, what my peers are saying. And at the end of the day, I have to live true to myself, because I only have one life. And I go back to this thought of like reverse engineering, right? Because I'm an engineer at heart. Is that let's reverse engineer it. Let's think, what are the top 5 regrets of the dying, right? What are the things that they wish they knew and wish they have done, right? At their deathbeds. And it's to pursue the life that they were meant to be, to spend more time with friends and family, and to build community, and to actually make a difference in the world. And most of them wish they didn't work as hard, right? And so it's not about just quitting your job. It's about trying to find and build meaning in your life and purpose, whatever that is. To some, that may be a 9-to-5 job, that may be just pursuing something that they've always wanted to pursue since they were at university, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I knew that I needed to do something else. I needed to keep challenging myself, because I had built now a little bit more confidence in my own self that I can accomplish something if I've truly put my mind to it. So there you go. That is the story of how I quit my high-paying tech salary job to now be unemployed and on a sabbatical. I don't know what is next really in my life, and I find that both very scary but also very exciting. I hope that my message will give you some inspiration in your own life to figure your own things out, whether that is to inspire you to also go after what you truly want in your life, or to inspire you to not do what I did. But yeah, I hope it sort of resonated with you, because it's all about the human experience.